Peace and security, two words that have quite literally shaped generations of Jehovah's Witnesses. These two words could be expressed on a news broadcast, and Jehovah's Witness social circles would be lit on fire, abuzz with speculation, intrigue, and excitement about what this could mean for the entire global future.
Any day now, nations will cause the peoples who are looking to them for guidance to think they have finally established peace. The need for peace is already being talked about by national leaders. We're not fooled by this sham cry of peace and security. 1 Thessalonians 5:3 says, whenever it is that they are saying peace and security, then sudden destruction is to be instantly on them. Sudden destruction. Instantly. It won't take long. Her supporters will cry out weeping and mourning and say, too bad, too bad. But we will be thinking, I'm glad, I'm glad.
And yesterday, all of that fun, speculation, and excitement went away. Not in a triumphant blaze of glory, but in a petite, wet little fart in the back of a Watchtower magazine. So we got some new light to talk about, and I find it very interesting, so let's get right into it. Hello and welcome back to the JW Thoughts channel. My name is Wally, and today we are taking a look at the February 2026 Watchtower. Quickly before we get into it, don't forget to drop a like on the video. It literally takes a half a second, and it's the easiest, freest, best way that you can support the channel. Apparently there's something called hyping a video, so that's cool too if you want to try that out. YouTube tells me it's important. So there you have it. Also, consider subscribing if you're not subscribed. All of the YouTube stuff out of the way. But this Watchtower actually has several articles in it that I did find intriguing. So I think I'm going to actually make multiple videos about a single Watchtower. I know I normally just kind of blaze through it in about a 20-minute video, but this one has a lot of little intriguing nuggets. But we are going to start with the end of the magazine in a questions from readers article. But quickly before we do that, I wanted to show just how recently this has been talked about as a very sure, definite thing that normal Jehovah's Witnesses could look for as part of a fulfillment of prophecy. These two words, peace and security. So before we look at the Watchtower and the changes that they made, let's look back and see how Jehovah's Witnesses have historically talked about this obscure scripture in 1 Thessalonians 5.
Well, we eagerly look forward to the fulfillment of 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 3, don't we? Just before Jehovah's Day begins, the nations will say, peace and security, and then sudden destruction will come upon the wicked. The peace and security proclamation must be an exceptional development, different from the many peace efforts that have been made up until that time. But Jehovah's servants won't be deceived. Do you remember this image on our screens? It's in the October 2019 Watchtower, and our picture description helped us to see what's happening. It states, patrons at a coffee shop react to breaking news on television about a proclamation of peace and security. But we focus on the middle of that image and what's happening there. The description continues, a witness couple taking a break from field service are not fooled by this report. We won't be fooled because we listen when God speaks. We listen when God speaks.
This is a very recent talk. This isn't from 50 years ago. We're talking about something that was talked about and put out on their main jw.org website within the last couple of years. And this is the framework at which they talk about this whole peace and security proclamation. It's the Jehovah's Witnesses keeping their finger on the pulse of what's going on. You know, they're paying attention to these news broadcasts and when this proclamation of peace and security is going to happen. because that is what they've been told to do for literally generations of Jehovah's Witnesses have been waiting for this moment. And it's interesting because it was an opportunity for Jehovah's Witnesses, ordinary ones, not the leadership, but just the rank and file, to be able to participate in prophetic speculation. A lot of times they are passengers on the train that the governing body are driving, or the president, if it's back in the day, is driving. But this was always historically something that regular old Jehovah's Witnesses were told to really pay attention to. And this always created a sense of excitement. It created, oh, I get to participate in identifying Bible prophecy. This is pretty cool. I wonder if it's going to be this. I wonder if it's going to be that. And they even show this couple sitting here like, oh yeah, they're really paying attention. So this is sanctioned, certified activity, certified speculation, if you will, by the governing body. And just notice how he really highlights this in another section of this talk, and describing how Jehovah dignifies them by giving them the ability to have foreknowledge of events. So they are going to have prior knowledge of things that are going to happen in the future.
Unlike people in general, we discern where current events are heading. Jehovah doesn't keep us in the dark regarding these significant events. Actually, he dignifies us by kindly giving us advanced knowledge in the form of a general outline of events that are going to occur in the future. Would we expect anything less from our loving Father? I thought this was nicely highlighted in a quote in the Awake magazine some years ago. A branch received a letter from a 77-year-old Catholic monk who explained this. I do not agree with all your beliefs, but what I read today in the Watchtower makes me admit that you have your finger on the pulse of time. You courageously and legitimately explain Paul's words at 1 Thessalonians 5:3. And now notice what else he states. Nowhere in our church do I find such explanations. A person cannot dispute the workings of Holy Spirit upon Jehovah's Witnesses. Jehovah dignifies us by kindly granting us advanced knowledge.
So this scripture in Thessalonians was used as a basis for saying things like, people in general aren't aware what's going on, but we, the special people that are Jehovah's Witnesses, have advanced knowledge about the current political climate. Wow. Wow, what a confident declaration. I mean, he is not saying this timidly or shy. He is saying it with his whole damn chest. Whoop. This is how God dignifies us by giving us this advanced knowledge, and aren't we grateful? So it's important to remember that just a couple of years ago, this is something that Jehovah's Witnesses would point to. People in the upper echelon of their organization would point to this as a way that God himself is blessing you with the privilege of having advanced knowledge, so that way you could be aware of where you were in the stream of time. This is a big deal. God speaking to people, letting them know, hey, here's some little clues, here's a general outline of what's going to happen. And they've had this confidence for years. It was a big deal. And I really wanted to highlight this because every time there's some type of new light and I get excited about it, there's always people like, oh, you're making a big deal of this. Oh, you're blowing this out of proportion. I feel like the only thing that would satisfy the people that say things like that is if the whole organization just crumbled and fell and no longer existed, which I don't see happening anytime soon. So like, this is still significant. Just because the whole organization of religion doesn't crumble and burn to the ground doesn't mean that things like this are any less significant, because they have this entire historical context of how they've talked about it, what it's meant to them, how it's really shaped their identity personally, and how they perceive world events as having, again, this mysterious, cult-like, special, advanced knowledge of what was going to happen. Now let's look at what changes they made to this and how that might affect the mindset of current believing Jehovah's Witnesses. When will the nations proclaim peace and security? It talks about the United Nations being this scarlet-colored wild beasts, and they were going to receive power and destroy all of false religion. We won't get into that, but they do mention it here. Will the nations proclaim peace and security before or after the destruction of false religion? Put simply, we do not know for sure the timing of the future proclamation of peace and security. If we knew all the details, we would not need to stay alert and watchful. Okay, full stop, pause right there. This is a tactic, a method of muddying the waters that weasels and worms and rodents and roaches use to obscure the truth. It's a bad form of argumentation when you take a specific and try and turn it into a general in order to get out of something. So sure, you could say, well, if we knew all the details, we wouldn't need to stay alert. Mother sucker, you never claimed to know all the details. That has never been in question. So why are we talking about that? You claimed to know a specific detail. One specific one. The timing of when this thing would happen. You've claimed that God told you when it would happen. You've claimed that there was evidence for it based off of your understanding of the Bible. And you stuck with this, not just like haphazardly, maybe, sorta, kinda. Like we saw in that last talk just a couple of years ago, you used this as proof and evidence that God was dignifying you with advanced special knowledge. That, my friends, that is a specific, not a general. So don't let them do the weasel worm routine here and get out of this. I can't stand that when people flip-flop the two. You can't take a general and try and apply it to a specific, and you can't take a specific and try and apply it to a general. It frustrates me because it makes people confused and they start thinking about what it's not. Like, let's stay on point here. We're talking about one thing. Anyway, weird little rant there. Yet Jesus repeatedly counseled his followers to keep on the watch. Paul wrote, whenever it is that they are saying peace and security, then sudden destruction is to be instantly upon them. Our publications have often explained Paul's words this way. The proclamation of peace and security will be made just before the outbreak of the Great Tribulation, which begins with the destruction of Babylon the Great, the world empire of false religion. This proclamation has been described as the final signal that the Great Tribulation is about to begin. However, after further careful consideration, it seems that there is another possible explanation that we cannot rule out. Perhaps the proclamation of peace and security will be made after the destruction of false religion. Why might this be the case? Consider the following questions. So they have this brief cursory glance at how their publications previously spoke about it, but it's not doing it proper justice to the impact and effect that this was having on Jehovah's Witnesses. So take a look at a 1991 Watchtower just to see exactly how seriously they took this. Here in the September 1st, 1991, on page 5 and 6, Time Elements Revealed, and it's talking about this whole thing about peace and security. It says, the Apostle Paul also introduced a time element. He said, while they are talking of peace and security, all at once calamity is upon them. This rendering of Paul's words in the New English Bible shows clearly that the Great Tribulation takes place while they are talking. Like a thief in the night, unforeseen destruction will strike when it is least expected, and the attention of most humans is on their hoped for peace and security. Hence, while at the moment we cannot say with finality that the present, this is 1991, that the present peace and security situation fulfills Paul's words, or to what extent talk of peace and security will yet have to develop, the fact that such talk is now being heard to an unprecedented degree alerts Christians to the need for staying awake at all times. So this wasn't just some prophecy that no one really thought about, where the timing doesn't really matter. They claim peace and security before the destruction, they claim it after. What's the big deal? Don't let Watchtower get away with this one. This was historically used as a way to get Jehovah's Witnesses involved, to care about what's going on in the world so they could try and identify the fulfillment. Sorry, Goose started barking like a madman. It kind of jump scared me here. Anyway, but this was so that Jehovah's Witnesses could identify where they were in the stream of time. And as that article said, hey, we don't know if this current situation where political leaders are talking about it, we can't say it with finality, but we know that all Christians need to be on alert. That was 25 years ago. 25 years ago, they were saying that. So when they come forward and are like, oh yeah, we just kind of said it was before, but yeah, what's the really big deal? You're the one that made it a big deal. So therefore, now I'm going to make it a big deal. If you hadn't made it a big deal, Watchtower, in the past, no one would really care. But you did that, so we are going to hold you accountable. Now, we don't have to get into their entire logic here, or at least it doesn't interest me. If it interests you, that's good for you. I'm happy for you. But we'll pick it up here in this last little section. How will Jehovah's people react to the foretold events? Paul says, brothers, you are not in darkness, so that the day should overtake you as it would thieves. Consider, if the proclamation of peace and security is made after the destruction of false religion, then Jehovah's people will know that the destruction of the nations is imminent. However, from the point of view of the nations, their destruction will come as a thief, suddenly, without warning. What then may we expect? In the near future, the 10 horns and the greatly empowered wild beasts will destroy false religion. This will be the start of the Great Tribulation. We also know that at some point, the nations will proclaim peace and security. When will that happen? We have discussed two possibilities. Possibility 1, the proclamation will be made before the destruction of false religion. Possibility 2, that proclamation will come after the political elements have completely destroyed false religion. We will have to wait and see what happens. Bible prophecies are often fully understood when they are being fulfilled or after they have been fulfilled. In the meantime, what matters most is not the timing of future proclamations of peace and security, but our standing before God. We must stay awake and keep our senses so that we may blah, blah, blah. So why are they doing this? Why are they moving everything to, hey, let's wait and see till after the destruction of false religion before any prophecies are being fulfilled, there's any action? The only thing in my mind that to explain this, again, if you differ in opinion, that's totally cool. I'm always keen to hear that. But I think they just want to remove everything that was cool and interesting about being a Jehovah's Witness. That looking at history, looking at Bible prophecy, trying to draw correlations between things in the Bible and political or world events. It was one of the favorite activities of Jehovah's Witnesses as an organization and as individuals within the organization. And they're taking that away. Why? I think it's a move to become a more generic religion, to have people that are less studious, less interested in studying the Bible and these biblical prophecies, these quote-unquote deep things of God. I think they don't want Jehovah's Witnesses sitting down with their Bible, going through old watchtowers, and looking for these quote-unquote spiritual treasures. Because if you do that, you might be like me, and you might find yourself knee-deep in a whole bunch of horseradish as you're going through the Bible and all of the commentary that Jehovah's Witnesses have made, even stuff that's available on their JW library. It gets pretty embarrassing really quick if someone with a keen mind starts looking at it. So I think that that's what this is. I think they just want to be a more generic religion where people are just happy to sit in a seat and watch a movie and clap and watch a music video, and it's about the vibes. And they're trying to move further away from these deep pseudo scholarly approach to Bible study and their spiritual identity as well. So yeah, I think if as far as they just move things down in the past, well, we'll just have to wait and see. We don't know. That crap is so annoying. Because if it is true that you don't know, then you have to say we didn't know all along. All of those years and years that we were hyping and gassing you up, even just a couple of years ago, telling you that, man, you got to be on the watch. This could be right around the corner, dog. You never know. And now it's just gone. All of that excitement, all of that is just completely gone. And they don't acknowledge the fact. This is like a phrase that always rings in my head because it's something I said to myself when I first had that moment of waking up and started looking at the Bible and started looking at how Jehovah's Witnesses would give their commentary about it. And I kept saying, I wrote it down and I kept saying it to myself. Why would a God of truth use a lie to bring me to truth? Why would a God of truth use a lie to bring me to truth? And it really, I don't think it creates a false dichotomy. I think it's a proper dichotomy. Either God is a liar or the people running the Watchtower organization are liars. And it's as simple as that. It really is. Why would a God of truth for years tell you to be on the lookout? Hey, I'm giving you this special knowledge. These are my people. You can trust them. And then they just turn around and say, actually, in fact, we don't know. If that doesn't erode confidence in the current leadership, I don't know what will. But this is a significant change for them because it does chip away at the identity that these are these spiritual people being led by God. Because if they're being led by God, they wouldn't do stuff like this. Anyway, I think this video is probably long and tidy enough. It's kind of a weird way to say it, but we're just going to live here. And I'll pick up some of the other stuff in this Watchtower in the next video. There's some interesting stuff about baptism and this, that, and the third. So anyway, just wanted to talk about this new light. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you're still around, don't forget to drop that like on the video. Very much appreciated. Hype, whatever the heck that means. With all of that being said, stay safe, be kind, and don't forget to spend more time loving the things you love than hating the things you hate. Now go out there and have a good ass day.